Hello chess friends, you might have seen the Reti problem. It's one of the most famous chess problems ever composed. And if you want to check it out, I've already made a video upon that. So I'll just paste the link in the description. So you can just go and check it out. One of the reasons that the Reti problem is so amazing is because it beautifully highlights the geometry of the chessboard. And moreover, on the surface, the problem looks impossible to solve. And this one is no different. It's white to play and draw. And on the surface, again, it looks like an impossible task. Black has three pawns, and it looks like white cannot stop all the three pawns, whereas white's pawn is very close to the black king and black king can easily capture the white pawn. So on the surface it looks like impossible for white to draw this, but there exists a way. And okay, I've studied the Reti problem, I have seen the maneuver and how it works, but when I saw this for the first time I was really amazed. It really looks like an impossible puzzle, but there is a way. And if you like, you can just go ahead, pause the video and try to find the solution. All right, so hope you have found the solution. It it has some really amazing lines. For example, the first move is king to g6. We are going to attack the g7 pawn, and now black has three different ways of reacting. So let's say what happens if we start pushing his h pawn. In that case, we won't capture the h pawn but the g7 pawn, and after h4 we take the other pawn, and king to e6, moving closer to our pawn, king to b6, king to d6, and we promote at the same time, and this is a draw. This is a technical draw and there's no way that black can win. So going back, in this position, black can also push his f pawn, and again in that case we won't capture the f pawn but the g7 pawn. And let's see what happens if the f pawn starts rolling up. Now we have king to f6. Our king is moving closer, one step closer to both our a pawn, both our c pawn and the f pawn. So f3, and now it's impossible. It's actually not possible for white to stop the pawn, and that's why he tries to move closer to his own pawn. King to e6, f2, c7, and black promotes and white promotes with the check, and this is very important. Otherwise there would have been queen to h3 and picking up the queen, but because we promoted with the check, black has to move his king, and this is just a draw. The h pawn is not going to help because it's a rook pawn, and rook pawn have a tendency of being very drawish. All right, so now let's take a look at black's best option here. Black's best option is to play king to b6, immediately attack the pawn, and dare white to capture the g7 pawn. And white does it. White does take the g7 pawn, and now again black has a few options. If he takes this pawn, we can simply capture the f pawn, and our king will move closer to this h pawn and will pick up it, and that's a draw. And that's why, let's see what happens if after king to g7, let's see what happens if he pushes his h pawn. In that case, we play king takes f6. Again, we are threatening to play king to g5 and capture the pawn. So the pawn moves ahead. Now we play king to e5, and this is a very important move. We are not moving towards either of the pawn. We are moving in the center, one step closer to our pawn and one step closer to his pawn. This is very important. That's how the geometry of the chessboard works. You do not always have to take the most straightforward path. You can take a curve. Now, if he captures your pawn, we can simply go closer to the black pawn and pick it up. And in other case, if he starts to push his own pawn, then you can go king to d6 and your pawn will promote. The white pawn will promote along with the black pawn, and that's simply a draw. So these were the most amazing lines here, but there's one more. After king to g7, now if black starts to push his f pawn, now we have king to f6 attacking the pawn. The pawn goes ahead, king to e5 attacking the pawn, at the same time threatening to go king to d6, so supporting our pawn. So after f3, king d6, again this is simply a draw. So in all the lines, no matter what happens, white is able to make a draw and hold the game. And this is really amazing puzzle. I have seen the Reti problem, and this one just takes it one step above that. So it's really amazing. So thank you for watching and hope you like this video. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.